Kemi Badenoch, you've called for the age of consent to be raised for social media to 16. How would this be enforced in practice, and how can you guarantee that age checks won't become a backdoor for digital ID?
Well, we want to make sure that we have freedom for adults, but protection for children. Children are different from adults, and what we're seeing is that social media companies are profiting from their distraction and their anxiety, and parents can't cope. So we want to bring in an age limit for social media. Now is the time for the social media companies to work with us. What we're not doing is bringing in big censorship, big bans. This is common sense. We're not going to have full censorship like we know Labour wants, but we don't want a free-for-all like with which other parties like Reform seem to want. What we want is common sense, and we know that this can be done. There are ways, new technologies that didn't exist a few years ago for verifying users, and then this firmly puts the responsibility with parents when there is a legal limit in place that stops children being in spaces that are for adults.
Now, Secretary of State Liz Kendall has threatened that the government may act to ban X and Grok in the UK. Do you support the banning of that platform or any restrictions being placed on Elon Musk's social media site?
I think banning X is the wrong answer. I'm not even sure what question it is that they're answering. What we are seeing is a Labour government that did not have a plan, and they're just throwing out random policies, probably to distract from the fact that they're putting businesses in a very difficult position. What was happening was the business rates discussion, lots of pubs complaining, and then all of a sudden, Labour talks about banning X. I don't think that's a serious solution.
And moving on to Iran, would you support the Islamic Revolutionary Guard being prescribed as a terrorist organisation?
So I'm not against that, but we already have powers within the National Security Act in order to ban organisations like the IRGC. At the end of the day, they are the army of an enemy country. We don't need to have a ban. There are loads of laws and legislation in place. Let's use them.
And we've seen huge protests in Iran. Donald Trump has threatened to intervene. Would you support British involvement in that? And do you support regime change?
What we have seen in Iran is a lot of people fighting for their freedom. And we're on the side of those people, many of whom are giving up their lives, sacrificing their lives for a better country. We know that regime makes life awful for women, awful for gay people. It is repressive and brutal. So yes, I would like to see a regime change because it is a country that is harmful to Britain, and having a better Iran is in Britain's national interest.
And on Lord Mandelson yesterday refused to apologise to victims for his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Should he lose his seat in the House of Lords, and should Keir Starmer do more to make that happen?
I think it's shocking that Peter Mandelson thinks that now is the time to rehabilitate himself. I mean, let's not forget, this was a man who was writing love letters to a convicted paedophile, knowing what had happened. So I don't think that we should be hearing from him at all. And Keir Starmer, if he was serious, would make sure that this man had nothing to do with the Labour Party going forwards.
And finally, we are in a pub in southwest London this morning. We know the government has set to U-turn on pubs and provide additional support. Will this be enough to save the Great British pub, or will this be last orders for many?
We don't even know if the government's going to U-turn. It's just rumours. Let's hear what they actually have to say. And let's remember, it's not just pubs. Pubs have been the most vocal. They're the ones who banned Labour MPs from coming in. But it's all of hospitality. It's gyms. They're all screaming under the punishment that this Labour government has been giving them in terms of higher taxes. And they're struggling to survive. So the government needs to do more than U-turn. It needs to set out a proper agenda that's actually going to increase employment and get Britain working again. I will put those in the middle of the table and then say hello. Actually, Laura, why don't you go in, first? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, guys.
Hi. Good morning.
Hey. How many to see you?
Hello.
Hi, my name's Gabby Hersham. I've got 2 boys, 10 and 6, and 1 on the way.
Oh, right. Congratulations.
Very uncomfortable.
I don't like us to announce things unless we've actually got a proper plan for how we can make sure it works. And we went, what I said to Laura and on the BBC yesterday was that we have companies that are profiting from children's addiction. They are designing these platforms to be addictive. We know because we find them very hard to get off. And it's creating a lot of disorders, a lot of anxiety, a lot of focus. Children don't want to do normal things anymore. They just want to be online.
And what is most helpful for us to be doing and saying? So you said you had teenage children. Is that right?
Yes, I do. I have 15 and 12. I mean, this is a subject very close to my heart. So I've known for a very long time, and they've known for a long time, that phones and to even more of it. And I said, I'm sorry, that's not, because there's too much on there. And it's not even the content itself that I think, yes, of course there's harmful content, but to your point, it's the attention.
Yes.
It's how their brain functions. It's the fact that they're going to the social exclusion when it's just you fighting the tide against everyone else. You need there to be some boundaries that government puts in place, some regulation. We know that they're not supposed to drink, they're not supposed to gamble, they're not supposed. We've given them those protections. So why are we giving them the protections here, where we also know that there's such risk?
And you see just how many other parents have given in or given up. And that makes it harder for the child of the parents who are being stricter, the parents who are doing the parental responsibility that people just say in quite a throwaway way. That those parents who are trying to do that are not successful because peer pressure is stronger than they realise, and really affects the mood and the confidence of the children. It does.
And it takes off the pressure where you speak to your child and you just say, well, you're not allowed. It's against the law. So then you are not it is hard enough as a parent nowadays altogether with all the social pressure. And the difference in the way the boys grow up, and where I found it so hard to say no to them. Whereas the girls who are now 12 and 10, it just became much. Also the schools, by the way, they're doing a much better job on it. So
they're not really thinking about the consequences and what it means, and whether what they're saying today actually is analogous to what used to happen in the past. It's not the same. It's a different world. The internet is its own world. So it's like telling parents that they need to be responsible for every single street that their child walks on, and if they can't be responsible, it's their fault. That's not how it works. They're not mapping the virtual world.
The government has announced it will set out guidance on screen time for under 5s. Your party has said it would ban social media for under 16s. What do you think should be key in that guidance?
Well, I'm not sure the problem that they're trying to solve. I think that for under 5s, it's very easy for parents to police what their children are doing on screens. I think the less screens at all, the better. I think the real priority is older children, the over 5s, between up until the age of 16. They're the ones who are being most harmed by social media. And on top of our ban on smartphones for schools, this is phones from schools, pardon me. This is one thing which I think will help shift the agenda. Most parents won't read government guidance. We need to do something that is common sense, but not overly censorious.
And if social media access is taken away for under 16s, how do we prepare young people for the online world once they reach 16?
Well, it's the same question we could ask about how do we prepare them for the online world now when they're already on it. And the truth is we don't do any preparation. So what we can do is make sure that we explain to them the dangers, show them the evidence. These platforms are designed to be addictive. Even adults find it very difficult to stop using them. We shouldn't be letting companies profit from our children's anxiety, distraction, depression. That's what we're seeing right now. And I think that we've had plenty of time to observe the effects of social media. Now is the time for government to act.